meeting is being recorded.
Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to our class on Nectar of Devotion, which is a summary study book written by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. In today's class, we will continue with our discussion on chapter 7 of this book. We started this discussion in the previous class, part 1, and the title of this chapter Srila Prabhupada is given as Evidence Regarding Devotional Principles. Today we will also try to finish chapter number 8 of the same book. The title of that chapter is Offenses to be Avoided, and this is our 10th class on this subject matter of the Nectar of Devotion. I would like to invite now Manish ji, my very good colleague from Shell, to kindly lead us on Mangalacharan prayers. Manish Prabhu.
Yes, okay, Prabhu. Yeah. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamarupa Kadamayam Tadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Guru Vaishnavamcham Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatanvitam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतम सावधूतम परजन संहिता कृष्ण चैतन्य देवम श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सहगण ललिता श्री विशाखान्वितांश्च हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। हरे कृष्ण प्रभु।
Thank you, Manish Prabhuji. Very nicely chanted the Mangalacharan prayers. Thanks a lot. Okay. Now we come to the next item, which is the summary of previous class, class number 8. So the previous class, as I just mentioned, it was on chapter number 7, and we had started to discuss the 64 limbs of devotional service. 64 limbs of devotional service means how in practical terms we execute devotional service. And in the previous class, we had started our discussion on these 64 limbs. Chapter 7 covers 18 limbs, and out of those 18 in the previous class, we had covered 10 of them. So let us quickly recap which 10 limbs we had discussed in the previous class. In the beginning of class, what is this? This seems to be a wrong presentation. Just a minute. Oh, sounds okay. Just a minute, devotees. Let me see if I made any mistake here. Or maybe probably I forgot to save the summary slide which I prepared. So what can we do is we can do it on the WhatsApp. Yeah. Can you see my screen now?
Yes,
No
Prabhuji,
problem.
same screen.
Same
No,
screen. Wait.
Same
Okay,
screen.
okay.
Somebody of class 8.
Okay.
Same
Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
Haji, it's very much visible, Guruji.
Chrome tab.
Can you hear? We cannot hear, Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, we cannot hear anything.
Hare Krishna, can you hear me?
We can
Yes,
hear now.
Now okay, Prabhu.
Now we can.
Now
Okay,
we
okay.
can.
Now,
Yeah.
now we can hear, but I don't see any slide here.
Yeah, I'll share the screen. There seems to be some mistake from my part. Maybe I forgot to save my. Did I saved it in the another slide? Oh yeah, I saved in a different slide. Give me a minute. We can copy and
Yes.
paste. This one job we do it very nicely. Copy and paste. So this goes here. Okay, and copy and paste. This goes in the another one. So I maintain the. Okay. Sorry, devotees. As Rakesh ji was mentioning in the beginning, we are getting old. At least I am. So yeah,
Think
yeah.
about us, Prabhuji.
You are
I was
very
going to say same thing of us.
okay. So we are now on the usual summary of class 9. Okay, so we started our discussion where I emphasized on the fact that Rup Goswami is now starting to give description about the 64 limbs of bhakti, and before giving the description of these limbs, he says that now he is going to present evidences from the scripture. So we took some time to discuss the importance, significance, relevance of giving evidences from the scripture. And I specifically mentioned a quote from Srila Prabhupada, where he's saying that the proper way of giving evidences is to give evidence from scriptures. So here Rup Goswami is not saying that because he has learned this thing from his guru Srila Sanatan Goswami, and whatever his guru has taught him, he's going to mention it, and that is should be accepted as evidence. Rup Goswami is not going in that direction. He's specifically mentioning that now I am quoting from Shastra, and that should be accepted as the evidence. So the point that we emphasized in our previous class was the most acceptable praman or evidence is Shastra praman, and this is a universal acceptable praman and has been the acharya sheli also, the approach taken by the Vaishnava acharyas. So we emphasized on that point. Then we started our discussion on various limbs. The limb number 1 was take shelter of lotus feet of Guru. Uh, it was Guru Padashraya. And then we discussed about what are the qualification of a Guru. In particular, we discussed 3 qualifications of the Guru. One was Shabda Brahma Nishnat. Second was Parabrahma Nishnat. And the third one was that he should be renounced. He should be satiated, satisfied from inside, should not have material desires in his heart. But what is Shabda Brahma Nishnat? Shabda Brahma Nishnat means he should be expert in devotional scriptures. Second was Parabrahma Nishnat, which means he should be expert in hearing and chanting, Shravan and Kirtan about Lord Hari. That are the qualifications of the Guru. So that is the first limb of bhakti, that we take shelter of the lotus feet of a bona fide spiritual master. The second limb was take initiation and instruction from a guru, which was Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam. In Krishna Dikshadi Shikshanam, we primarily understood that Guru is not a person to give us advice on material issues. Our spiritual master is a person to give us advice on spiritual issues, how to develop our loving relationship with Lord Hari. That is the primary education we receive from Guru. So from Guru, we need to learn Bhagavad Dharma, which means pure devotional service. That is the job of the Guru, and that is why we need to approach the Guru and take initiation and shiksha from Guru. Third limb was Vishrambhena Guru Seva. Vishrambhena, the word Vishrambhena means with confidence, with faith. Serve the Guru with faith and confidence. And what kind of faith and confidence? We should have confidence that this individual, this personality, whom we are calling as our spiritual master, is very, very much capable of taking us back to Godhead. So in that spirit, we should serve the Guru with full confidence, with full faith, giving him utmost respect, the same respect as we give to Lord Hari. With that respect, we should serve the Guru. Humble service, that's how we need to approach the Guru. The fourth limb was Sadhu Vartama Anuvartanam. Sadhu Vartama Anuvartanam. Anuvartanam means we should follow. What we should follow? We should follow the same path as traversed by the saintly persons in the past. And here again, Srila Jiva Goswami is explaining what is actually Sadhu Vartama. What path did the Sadhu traverse in the past? And we understood from Jiva Goswami's commentary that the sadhus follow the same path as chalked out by the scriptures, the devotional scriptures. So sadhu vartama anuvartanam. We should follow the scriptural rules in the footsteps of the acharyas. The fifth limb was Sadharm Pricha. Sadharm is nothing but pure devotional service. So it is also a limb of bhakti that when we have a spiritual master, when we have a teacher or a guru who is teaching us about pure bhakti, we should also from time to time approach our guru or some senior Vaishnav and inquire about the issues that are not clear to us in our understanding of pure devotional service. So that is Sadharma Pricha. So asking questions is a symptom of seriousness, and not only simply asking questions out of fashion, out of show, but seriously trying to improve our understanding of devotional service. And with that kind of seriousness, if we ask relevant questions with a suitable candidate, a senior person in the art of devotional service, that is known as Sadharma Pricha. So one who does serious, one who approaches bhakti with seriousness, Lord Hari is pleased very quickly. Limb number 6 was giving up material enjoyment for Krishna's satisfaction. So if the living entity's tendency is to enjoy on a material platform, but if the living entity has come to that platform, that much seriousness, that he is willing to give us his material enjoyment for the sake of Lord Krishna's satisfaction, Lord Krishna's pleasure, then the progress in bhakti is very fast. Limb number 7 was about Nivaso Dwarka Adau va Ganga Der Api Sannidhau. So living at holy places like Dwarka. So in this limb, we discussed holy places like Dwarka, Jagannath Puri, and places which are situated on the bank of river Ganga. So these holy places are surcharged with devotional potency. We find at such places realized souls who have learned many things in discharge of pure devotional service. So whenever we go to such places, we should take association of such devotees. And since the mood, the environment is surcharged with devotional potency, it is very, very auspicious, very, very beneficial that we visit holy places like Dwarka or holy places situated near the bank of the river. Limb number 8, accepting only what is necessary to perform one's bhakti. Vyavhareshu sarveshu yavad arthanuvartita. So yavad arthanuvartita means accepting only what is necessary. And we discussed that what is meant by what is necessary. It is not in relation with our bodily needs. Actually, it is in relationship with our needs of performing, discharging our bhakti. So different individual may have different needs where they can perform their bhakti in a most suitable way. Somebody might be a very rich person, or he might need more facilities to perform bhakti properly. Maybe he needs a proper residence, and that too with modern facilities to be able to perform one's bhakti properly. And somebody else might be so renounced that he can perform his devotional service simply living under a tree. So accepting only what is necessary is in relationship with performing one's bhakti properly. Then we have limb number 9, that was Hari Vasar Samman. Hari Vas means the days of Lord Hari, and these days are like Ekadashi or Janmashtami or other days where Lord Hari's festivals are there. So respecting the days of Lord Hari means maybe we have to observe fast on those days, we have to celebrate on those days. So one must do that in order to show one's respect to Lord Sri Hari. Ekadashi actually falls at least 2 times in a month. It falls on the 11th day of the lunar calendar. Once in a fortnight it will be there. So devotees who are really eager and serious about advancing in devotional service, it is advisable to keep a fast, to observe a fast on the day of Ekadashi. And finally, we discussed in our previous class about the limb number 10. Limb number 10 was Dhatri Ashwathadi Gauravam. Dhatri Ashwathadi Gauravam. Dhatri means amla tree. Ashwatha means banyan tree. So Adi actually it means there are several other items. So there were total 6 items. Banyan tree and Amalaka tree were 2 of them. Apart from those, Tulasi tree, cows, Brahmanas and Vaishnavas. So we should offer our respect. We should offer our worship to these sacred entities, individuals. So we will today in our class continue our discussion on these limbs of bhakti. Today we will cover item number 11 till item number 19. From item number 11 till item number 18, these items have been covered, these limbs of bhakti have been covered in chapter number 7 itself, which we have already started in our previous class. Like limb number 1 till limb number 10 comes in chapter number 7 of Nectar of Devotion. But from 11 till 18, chapter number 7 continues, and limb number 19 actually is a very exhaustive limb. It is about Seva Aparadh and it is about Naam Apparaths. So there are total of 88 items only in limb number 19, sub items I would say, which Srila Jiva Goswami has identified in the book. So we will quickly cover those 88 items also today. So kindly be with me in the class, because today's class will be a little fast-paced class where we will discuss different items in a very fast speed. So I will go through this small introduction recap that we generally do at the beginning of our class very fast. So like you see, we are today discussing chapter number 7, and we will also quickly cover chapter number 8, offenses to be avoided. So you can say that we will finish up till verse number 120 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. And from Nectar of Devotion, we will cover chapter number 7 and chapter number 8. Just to quickly remind you of our three definitions, which I am been emphasizing that we should remember. The definition number 1 is Uttama Bhakti, pure devotional service. Here I have asked you to remember at least Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. Anushilanam
Prabhuji,
means,
I
yes,
don't see
Prabhuji,
the slide. I don't
you
see
don't,
any of your slide.
you don't see the slide?
No.
No,
Okay.
Prabhu, no, Prabhu. Slides are not shared.
Oh, sorry. Just a minute. Do you see the slide now?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
I'm again sorry, dear devotees. Okay. So now, what I was mentioning to you, thank you, Pradeep ji. You helped me recognizing that we were not sharing the slide. Thanks
Thank
a
you.
lot. Yeah. So I was mentioning to you that in this slide, I have been emphasizing to all the devotees to at least for the time being remember three definitions: Uttama Bhakti, Sadhan Bhakti, and Vaidhi Sadhan Bhakti. And I was mentioning Uttam Bhakti means doing some service to Krishna with a favorable intention according to rules and regulations. So that is Uttama Bhakti. Anukulyena Krishna Anushilanam. So that is one. Then Uttam Bhakti is divided into three categories: Sadhan Bhakti, Bhav Bhakti, and Prema Bhakti. So let us not discuss about Bhav Bhakti and Prema Bhakti right now. What is Sadhan Bhakti? Sadhan Bhakti is that Bhakti which we do with our senses and with our mind. So we have 10 senses, 5 non
Prabhuji, your voice is not coming.
I think we lost him.
Hello, Prabhuji. We lost you. It looks like we don't hear anything. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, completely band hai you. He cannot even hear us.
Yeah, I think his internet has dropped. I think something has happened.
Yeah, it looks that way. Manish ji,
Yes. Correct.
I'm trying to call him and he is not answering the phone either.
I think the phone must be not near to him, but no, WhatsApp he was referring. No idea what happened.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, can you hear me now?
Yes, Prabhu. Yes, we lost you in between for a couple of minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, I think Prabhuji, there is some issue with internet today in my home. I think that is
Okay.
why this internet is weak and keep on disconnecting from time to time. So let us see how it
Yeah,
goes.
I tried to call you too, but you did not answer the phone.
Really? Sorry, Prabhu. I got the phone call from Rakesh ji. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Let us see how it goes. Kindly keep me calling in case we again lose connection.
I think you need to share the slides, Prabhuji. Again, slides are not
Okay.
visible.
Okay, Prabhu. Just a minute. Can you see the slide now?
Yes.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Now it is coming.
Okay. So Limb number 11. Limb number 11 is Shri Krishna Vimukha Janasanga Tyagaha. What does it mean? Shri Krishna Vimukha Janasanga Tyagaha. Giving up the association of those who are opposed to Shri Krishna. Giving up association of those who are opposed to Shri Krishna. And this is actually verse of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, verse number 111 in chapter 2. Here, Srila Rupa Goswami is giving a reference from Katyayana Samhita. And there are two type of devotees we should understand. Here I have mixed up the discussion, taking some items from Srila Prabhupada's Nectar of Devotion, as he has elaborated on the subject, and some actually you will see directly from Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. So this is the first bullet that you see here. Two class of non-devotees is mainly coming from the description that Srila Prabhupada is giving on this particular limb. He's saying that non-devotees are two types. One is materialists, and the second one are those people who are against Krishna's supremacy. So the reference from Katyayana Samhita is explaining about the class of devotee or non-devotees which are materialists. So materialists are those devotees who are only busy in enjoying material things in this world. So the reference in Katyayana Samhita is saying it is preferable to remain in an iron cage or amidst blazing fire than to live with those who are opposed to thinking of the Lord. So that is how in Katyayana Samhita description is given about that one should give up association of materialists. So what they are, how they are defining materialists? Who are opposed to thinking of the Lord. So materialists are always busy thinking about how they can enjoy material things, eat, drink, and be merry. How to enjoy material world. That is the whole philosophy of the materialist. So that is what it is mentioned here. Those who are opposed to thinking of the Lord, it is preferable to remain in an iron cage or amidst blazing fire than to live with those who are opposed to thinking of the Lord. Then we come to the next reference, and the next reference is about against Krishna's supremacy. So there are a class of people who are deeply attached to worship of the Devatas, the worship of the demigods. So this reference is coming from Vishnu Rahasya, and this is verse number 112. So what this verse is saying? This verse is saying, Alinganam varam manye vyala vyagraha jalaukasam na sangha shalya yuktanam nana devaika sevinam. Nana devaika sevinam. Devaika sevinam means demigod worshippers. And this is coming from Vishnu Rahasya. So these people are, although very good worshippers of the Devatas, the demigods, but they are still considered non-devotees. Now, Devatas popularly, we can, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, they are, both of them actually fall into the category of Devatas, the demigods. So you might find various people who are very good worshippers of the Devatas, but they are still considered non-devotees. So the reference in Vishnu Rahasya is saying it is preferable to embrace a snake, a tiger, Vyala and Vyagraha, or a crocodile, Jalaukasam, than to associate with those who worship Devatas to fulfill their material desires. So this is a reference from Vishnu Rahasya, which is actually discouraging us from worshipping of the Devatas. So these are the people who are opposed to the supremacy of Sri Krishna. So more discussion about this topic has been given by Srila Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion. in Nectar of Devotion, Srila Prabhupada writes, Srila Prabhupada condemns Mayavadi philosophy that one may worship any form of the Lord and still reach the same destination. So Mayavadis, what do they say? They don't accept Lord Krishna as the absolute truth. And instead of Lord Krishna, they consider impersonal Brahman to be the absolute truth. And they say that whatever form we see, like Lord Krishna, Rama, Surya, Ganesh, etc., etc., these forms one can imagine or one can attach themselves to because we are embodied souls. So we can imagine any of these forms as our Ishta Devata and then continue to worship these Ishta Devatas ultimately, but we have to give this form of Ishta Devata and ultimately we have to move to the impersonal Brahman. So they are also, the Mayavadis are also opposed to the supremacy of Lord Shri Krishna. And they say, the Mayavadi says that whatever form you are worshipping, whatever Devata or whatever form you are worshipping, you still reach the same destination. Then Srila Prabhupada in Nectar of Devotion also cites Srimad Bhagavad Gita, chapter number 9, verse number 25, where it mentions that worshippers of the Devatas take birth among the Devatas and worshippers of Lord will be promoted to Lord's abode. So that is how Srila Prabhupada is discouraging us from taking association, or Srila Rupa Goswami is discouraging us from taking association of those people who are opposed to Lord Sri Krishna's supremacy. Then we come to limb number 12, and limb number 12, 13 and 14. So these are three limbs, 13, 12, 13 and 14. For each of these limbs, 12, 13 and 14, the same reference is given from Srimad Bhagavatam. So Rupa Goswami is giving reference, the same reference from Srimad Bhagavatam. And these are three limbs. So limb number 12 is Shishyadi Anubandhitvam. Shishyadi Anubandhitvam, which means not being attached to accepting too many or unfit disciples. Now, the reference is there from Srimad Bhagavatam. What does it say? To spread Krishna consciousness, accepting disciples is required to continue the sampradaya. So Shishyadi Anubandhitvam. So if you literally translate this Sanskrit, what it means is that not accepting disciples, not accepting disciples. So Srila Rupa Goswami or Srila Jiva Goswami is explaining that it does not actually mean not accepting disciples, but actually it means not accepting too many or unfit disciples. So here the argument given for this particular translation is that if we do not accept any disciple, or if a guru or a teacher, spiritual teacher, does not accept any disciple, then it will not be possible to continue the sampradaya. So sampradaya will end and spread of Krishna consciousness, Krishna bhakti will come to an end, which is not a good situation. So it does not mean not accepting any disciple, rather it means not accepting too many or unfit disciples. And that has been clarified by Prabhupada also. He's saying disciples should not be accepted if they are unqualified or as a matter of prestige. So the guru should not accept unqualified disciples if they are not serious about bhakti, if they are only coming to bhakti for a small period of time, only for some ulterior motives. They should not be accepted by the guru as disciples. Or sometimes the guru might be of a materialistic nature. He might be attached to prestige, and he might be thinking that if I accept more and more disciples, it will be more and more prestigious for me. So as a matter of prestige also, the guru or the spiritual master should not accept disciples. Then come to the limb number 13. As I mentioned, 12, 13 and 14 are clubbed together, and the same reference from Srimad Bhagavatam has been given, 7, Canto 13th chapter 8th verse. So, not being eager for huge undertakings or costly temples. Maha Arambhadi Anudyamaha. Udyama means effort. Maha Arambhadi. Maha Aram means huge effort. So, not being eager for huge undertakings or costly temples. So, here the reference from Srimad Bhagavatam mentions that one should not engage in big projects that distracts one from spiritual goals. Big projects means sometimes in our life we dream of building a very big house or maybe set up a very big industry or whatever. Uh, so if we take such very big projects, that would mean that our whole life, our whole time will be consumed in thinking about how to fulfill or how to complete that big project. Rather, we will not pay attention to how to discharge our devotional service. So, such huge undertakings should not be taken. But if the money is available, if the money is coming on its own accord, then taking big projects for the service of the Lord can be undertaken. Like example has been given by Prabhupada that Srila Rupa Goswami engaged Maharaj Mansingh. Who was Maharaj Mansingh? Maharaj Mansingh was the army general of King Akbar. So in those times, Srila Rupa Goswami engaged Maharaj Mansingh to construct the Govindaji temple. So there is a temple, a famous temple by the name Govindaji temple, and donation or money was available to Srila Rupa Goswami, and Srila Rupa Goswami actually took this project for building this big temple. So more about this not being eager for huge undertakings. Now, unqualified spiritual masters sometimes can beg for money for building temples to live comfortably. So sometimes you can also see examples where uh, those devotees or those unqualified spiritual masters, although they have the role of spiritual masters, but they are unqualified because they are not performing that role as expected. So sometimes what can happen is that such unqualified spiritual masters can beg for money for building temples, but ultimately their ulterior objective is to live comfortably in those temples. And it is clarified by Srila Prabhupada also in Nectar of Devotion in his commentary that spiritual masters' first and foremost activity should be to preach, should be to spread the message of Krishna Bhakti. So instead of, if there are priority to be set up, then the priority to preach, to spread the message of Lord Krishna to people at large should be given priority number one, and uh, 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 taking huge undertakings or building costly temples should be given a lower priority. And this also is clarified by the statement made by Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj, who is the guru of Srila Prabhupada. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Maharaj has said, if one has money, instead of constructing costly temples, one should spend his money for the publication of books for propagating Krishna consciousness. So, Bhaktisiddhant Maharaj once told Srila Prabhupada that if you ever get money, print books. If you ever get money, print books. So, Bhaktisiddhant Maharaj was very much keen on spreading the message of Krishna consciousness through books, through whatever other possible means, and so on. In fact, once when Gaudiya Mutt, there was internal infighting going on among several devotees within Gaudiya Mutt. They were fighting because there was a costly temple built by Srila Bhakti Siddhant Maharaj, at the Bagh Bazaar temple, which was a marble temple. And there was an internal infight that started among various devotees in the temple. Then Bhakti Siddhant Maharaj was very much disturbed, and he mentioned that one should, I feel like selling this temple, selling the marble in this temple, and whatever money I get by selling that marble, I would like to print books. So you can see the mood of the Vaishnava acharyas is mainly about to spread the message of Krishna Bhakti. That is the prime objective. Although it does not mean that we should not build temples, but we should not give that much too much of a priority in our life. If we are given an opportunity, certainly we should take that activity, but first and foremost activity is to spread the message of Krishna Bhakti. Limb number 14, Granthan Naiva Bhyased Bahun. Granthan Naiva Bhyased Bahun. So, what does it mean? Granth means books. Bahun means too many. Not reading many books. So again, the reference is from Srimad Bhagavatam, same verse. One should not be eager to read many books that disrespect the Lord or oppose the Bhagavatam. So what category of books one should not be interested to read many? Many of these books which are opposing bhakti principles. So that disrespect the Lord or oppose the Bhagavatam. But on the contrary, one should read as many devotional books as possible. Like one should read, one should be ready to, willing to read Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, Nectar of Devotion, Ishopanishad, Bhaktir Samrat Sindhu, and then uh, uh, Updeshamrat, and now maybe Chaitanya Charitamrita. Any number of devotional books by Vaishnava Acharyas, the commentaries written by Vaishnava Acharyas, should not feel any time satiated reading these books. And one should not study books to there are also other aspects given by Srila Prabhupada. One should not study books to defeat others in arguments or show one's proficiency or to get popularity. So we should not be, our attitude should not be to defeat someone in their argument, should not have that kind of a egoistic attitude that no, I am better. I am actually much better and I can defeat with my knowledge that person in the argument. That should not be the purpose behind studying of these books. The purpose behind studying of the book is should be self purification. Or one should not read these books to develop knowledge so that they can show it to the world. No, that is also not the purpose. That will defeat the purpose of bhakti. Or to get popularity, that I am so knowledgeable, I am so I understand these books so nicely. Not neither to gain any popularity, in order to show off to the world, neither to defeat others in the arguments. Also, one should not read these books so that they can give discourses and make it as a means of livelihood. Means of livelihood. So sometimes sannyasis can take some donation because they are giving discourses, but sannyasis only are expected to accept that much donation only, or keep that much donation which is only meaning relevant for their own maintenance. That's all. Other donation, if they are having a surplus donation, they should actually use it for Krishna's service. So one should not read these books to so that they can give discourses as a means of livelihood. Coming to the limb number 15. So 12, 13, 14 has been clubbed together with only one reference from Srimad Bhagavatam. So this is now coming to the next limb. Vyavahare api akarpanyam. Vyavahare api akarpanyam. What does it mean? Not feeling miserable and not performing degrading acts in distressing circumstances. So this is material life, and in this material life, there are many times we face failures, many times we face losses, and it is the tendency of the living entity to feel miserable in those periods. And the living entity sometimes may feel so much miserable that he or she may even forget to remember the Lord. And sometimes it might happen that in those circumstances, the living entity may turn to some very low acts, degrading acts, and so on. So we should not be doing like that. We should have confidence in the Lord. In case we have some miserable situation, we have a material failure or we have a material loss, one should not still uh, forget to remember the Lord. So the reference is given from Padma Puran, and it says a devotee should remain undisturbed in material failure or loss. In loss, one should remember the Lord with one's intelligence. Also, a devotee should not perform degraded acts like begging, etc. So both the things, if we are having a failure, if we are having a loss, we should still continue to remember the Lord with our intelligence. We should still continue to remember, and neither we should take to degraded acts like begging, etc. Limb number 16. Shokadi ava Shokadi avasha vartita. Shokadi avasha vartita. What does it mean? Not being controlled by lamentation or other emotions. So this reference is coming from Padma Purana. So lamentation and other emotions. Other emotions could be anger. Lamentation could be feeling too much distressed, too much sorrowful, too much complaining. Those kind of emotions are there. So here the reference is given from Padma Puran. It says, how is it possible for Mukunda to appear in the mind of a person whose mind is afflicted with lamentation, anger, or other emotions? So if we are feeling angry on someone, then we will not be able to possible to uh, feel the presence of Lord Mukunda, Lord Krishna in our heart. So if in our heart there are negative emotions like lamentation, anger, etc., Lord Krishna cannot appear in that person's mind, in that person's heart. So that is the reference from Padma Purana. We go to limb number 17. Anya Devana Agya. Anya Devana Agya. Anya means others. Deva means devatas, the demigods. So not disrespecting the devatas. So this is, dear devotees, a specific limb of bhakti. One should not think that, oh, I am a devotee of Lord Krishna, then I should not care about Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, Goddess Durga, Mother Parvati, etc., etc. We should not we should not have any concern, anything to do with other demigods. So here specifically you can note here that it is a limb of bhakti that a Vaishnav should not be disrespectful to the devatas, and here the reference is given from Padma Purana. So here the shloka goes like this: Harir eva sada aradhyayah sarva deveshwara eshwarah itare brahma rudradya navagyeyah kadachana. Navagyeyah kadachana. So the specifically mentioned here itare, Brahma, and Rudra Adi. Rudra Adi. So Brahma is Lord Brahma, Rudra is Lord Shiva, and it is, this reference is coming from Padma Purana. So the translation of this shloka is: one should always worship Hari. Hari ev sada aradhyayah. One should always worship Hari, the Lord of the masters of all the devatas. Sarva Deveshwara Eshwaraha. The Lord of the masters of all the devatas. On the other hand, Itare, one should never disrespect Brahma, Shiva, and others. Itare, Brahma, Rudradya, Navagyeyah, Kadachana. Now, Srila Prabhupada also clarifies with some very nice statements in his summary study of Nectar of Devotion. He says, a Vaishnava is duty bound to offer all respects to such highly positioned devatas. So a Vaishnava is duty bound to give all respects to such highly positioned devatas. So these people, these living entities, these entities like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, they are in a very highly position in the hierarchy of the universe. So and further he mentions a Vaishnava should offer respect even to an ant. what to speak of exalted personalities like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma. So a Vaishnava is a person who offer respects even to a small entity, a very seemingly insignificant entity like an ant. Uh, a Vaishnava should respect to even an ant. And what to speak of then personalities like Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who are very, very dear devotees of Lord Krishna. So a Vaishnava should never ever actually disrespect the devatas. So whenever we come in contact, or whenever we go to the temples where we see the deities of Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, or other devatas, we should offer our utmost respect to the such personalities. Yeah. Then coming to limb number 18, Bhutanudvega Dayita. Bhutanudvega Dayita. Not inflicting pain on other living entities. And this reference is coming from Mahabharata. This reference says, this is verse number 117, and the verse says, Piteva putram karuno nodve jayati yo janam Vishudhasya Rishikeshas Turnam Tasya Prasidati. Turnam Tasya Prasidati. Turnam means very quickly. Uh, So that pure-hearted person, Vishuddhasya, that pure-hearted person who does not inflict pain on others, who does not inflict pain on others, being merciful like a father to his son. So there is an analogy given. A father is always very merciful to his son. Piteva putram karuno. Here in the verse, this reference is given. Piteva putram karuno. Like a father is merciful to his son, if a pure-hearted person who does not inflict pain to others quickly pleases Lord Rishikesha. Rishikeshas turnam tasya prasidati. Prasidati means pleasing. Turnam means very quickly. So such a person pleases Lord Rishikesh very quickly. And then Srila Prabhupada further elaborates, a Vaishnava can never support animal slaughter or even give pain to any living entity. So Srila Prabhupada in the summary study of Nectar of Devotion connects this aspect to actually animal killing. So you see all around us, there are so many animal slaughterhouses where innocent animals are being killed only to satisfy the taste of the tongue. So here Srila Prabhupada is extending this uh, particular reference to animal slaughter, or to give pain to any other living entity. Now we come to the most elaborate limb of bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti, limb number 19, which is Seva Nam Aparadhanam Varjanam. Seva Nam Aparadhanam Varjanam. What is Seva Aparadh and what is Nam Aparadh? So Seva Aparadh means when we do the deity worship, when we do the service to the Vigraha of the Lord, to the deity of the Lord, uh, uh, to the Archa Murti of the Lord, that is known as Seva. And while doing that service, while doing that Seva, we should be very, very careful. We should not commit offenses. So any aparadh done for the deity service is known as Seva Aparadh. Offenses in deity service is known as Seva Aparadh. But Naam Apparaths means offenses in chanting of the holy names. So this limb number 19 covers the Seva Aparadh and Naam Apparaths in very elaborate detail. And Srila Rup Goswami has mentioned about the Seva Aparadh and Naam Apparaths in verse number 118 of chapter 2 of Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, and elaborated little bit in 119 and 120. The next two verses he elaborated little bit about Seva Aparadh and Naam Apparath. But other than that, Srila Rup Goswami has not given any details in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu about Seva Aparadh and Naam Apparath. However, Srila Jeev Goswami, who has written the commentary on these three verses, 118, 119, and 120. They have been, Srila Jiva Goswami has given an elaborate list on Seva Aparadh and Naam Aparadh in his commentary. So in total, Srila Jiva Goswami has listed 88, you have heard it correctly, 88 items of Seva Aparadh and 10 items of Naam Aparadh in the commentary that he has written. And next many slides mention the original Sanskrit of that Seva Aparadh and Naam Aparadh, and also with a small short meaning of that Seva and Naam Aparadh in English. So so please be ready for a long list discussion of almost 98 items as part of limb number 19. And we will go with a little speed here. We will cover these slides at a faster pace. So I hope we should be able to do it in, I think, next 20-25 minutes. Let us start. So list of Seva Aparadh. The first Aparadh is Yanair va Padukair Vapi Gamanam Bhagavad Grahe. What it means is going to the temple of the Lord in a vehicle, palanquin, or while wearing shoes. So we should not go to the temple because we should not go to the temple in a vehicle, in a palanquin, because it shows us our opulence, and while wearing shoes. So when we go to the temple, actually we park our vehicle at a place little distance from the temple, and uh, there are always some place outside the temple where we can uh, take our shoes off and put them there. So we should not go inside the temple while wearing shoes. So this is one Seva Aparadh. Then Devotsavadi Asevacha. Devotsavadi Asevacha means to not render any service to the deity during a festival of the worshipable deity. So, for example, if there are days like Janmashtami, and this particular aparadh says, this particular item says that if we do not render any service during a festival of the worshipable deity, that is a seva aparadh. Then the third item is apranamas tad agratah. Apranamas tad agratah. Let me open my diary. I have written the Hindi equivalent so that I'm apranamas tad agratah. So the apranamas tad agratah. What does it mean? To not offering obeisances in front of the worshipable deity. So whenever we see the deity, we are expected to offer obeisances. We are expected to offer our pranams. If we don't do that, that is a seva aparadh. Fourth item, uchishthe vapi ashauche va bhagavad vandanadikam. Uchishthe vapi ashauche va bhagavad vandanadikam. What this means is worshipping the deity without washing our hands and feet or in an impure bodily condition. Uchishthe. Uchishthe means when our hands are, we have eaten our food and the hands are dirty. So that is uchishthe. Vapi ashauche. Ashauche means unclean condition. Shauch means clean, and ashauche means unclean condition. Va bhagavad vandanadikam. Vandana means worshipping the deity or maybe doing any other service of the deity. If we are in an unclean condition because we have eaten our food, or we have waken up from our sleep, or we have just answered the calls of nature, etc. So in this unclean or condition, we should not offer our worship to the deity. So if we do so, that is a seva aparadh. Then number 5 is ek hasta pranamascha. Ek hasta pranamascha. Ek hasta. Ek hasta means sometimes when we enter the temple hall, we offer pranams like this. We say, so we are offering pranams like this. So that is not a proper etiquette in front of the deity. So we should always our offer pranams as a minimum, like with two folded hands, both the hands together. And there are two other ways of offering pranam. Is one is called Panchang Pranam. Panchang Pranam, when we pay our obeisances to the deity, where five our limbs, our body is touching at five places on the ground. And that is called Panchang Pranam. Like when we do this pranam, our head is touching to the ground, two hands are touching to the ground, and two legs are touching to the ground. So two legs, two hands, and one head. So that is called Panchang Pranam. Then we have got Sashtang Pranam. Sashtang Pranam, when we lie down flat uh, in front of the deity. So that is the proper way of pranam. But minimum, as a minimum, we should offer pranams like with this two folded hands. So ek hasta pranamascha. So offering pranams like this is actually a seva aparadh. Tat purastat pradakshinam. Tat purastat pradakshinam. So to perform some circumambulation in front of the worshipable deity. So when the deities are there, and if we are offering parikrama, pradakshina to any other entity in the temple room, that is actually seva aparadh, because the deity is actually the king. He should be treated like a king. He is the person to be offered the most respect in the temple room. Now, in front of the king or in front of the deity, if we are offering our respects to another living entity, another entity, then it is actually called, it is a seva aparadh. It is not proper. So sometimes when we see in the temples, in ISKCON temples in particular, where we have the deities in the morning when we do the arti of the deities, and then immediately after the arti of the deities, there is Tulasi arti. So whenever there is a Tulasi arti, you would take note that the doors of the deity room are closed, and only after closing the doors of the deity room, then only the Tulasi arti is done. And during the Tulasi arti, we take the pradakshina of Tulsi Maharani. So that is done mainly when the temple doors are closed. So tat purastat pradakshinam. Seventh item is pad prasaranam cha agre. Pad prasaranam cha agre. Prasaranam means to spread. So spreading one's legs in front of the deities. So sometimes we spread our legs in front of the deities. So that way we should not be doing it. That is a seva aparadh. Paryank bandhanam. Paryank bandhanam means sitting in a squatting position in front of the deity. So I will show you the image. In the next slide, I have captured this picture. So this is actually called a squatting position. So Paryank bandhanam. So one should not be sitting in front of the deities in this posture. To squat in front of the deity, item 8. Then item 9 is shayanam, to sleep in front of the deity. So we should not sleep in front of the deity. That is a seva aparadh. Bhakshanam. Bhakshanam means to eat in front of the deity. So when the deity doors are opened, the deities are there in front of us. So we should not sit in front of the deity and should eat. So that is also a seva aparadh. If we have to eat, either we eat outside the temple room, or we put the curtain in front of the deities, and then we can maybe eat at that place. But after eating, we should actually wipe out that place with a wet cloth to once again clean that place, to once again purify that place. So to eat in front of the deity is a seva aparadh. Mithya bhashanam. Mithya bhashanam means uttering lies in front of the deity, maybe lying to the deity itself or lying to someone else in front of the deity. That is also a seva aparadh. We go to item number 12. Uchchair bhasha. Uchchair bhasha means speaking very loudly in front of the deity, raising our voice too loud, because the deity is also a person, is also a considered as a personality. So if we speak too loudly, that could be disturbing to the deity. So we should not speak very loudly in front of the deity. Uchchair bhasha. Mithau jalpaha. Mithau jalpaha means useless gossip in front of the deity. So, like if we are sitting in front of a very exalted personality, for example, if we are sitting in front of uh, the prime minister of the country, so we should be very, very contained in our behavior. We should not be uh, speaking something unnecessarily. So, similarly, as I mentioned, the deity is treated like a king in the temple. So, we should not make any useless gossip in front of the deity. Mitho jalpaha. 14 is Rodanani. Rodanani means, Rodanani word comes from Rudan. Rudan means crying. So sometimes devotees out of devotional emotions may shed tears, but crying like wailing in front of the deity, crying very loudly in front of the deity, for example, like wailing, that should not be done. That is considered as one of the aparadhs, seva aparadhs. 15th is Vigraha. Vigraha. Vigraha means quarreling in front of the deity. So if there are two people engaged in a quarrel or in an argument, that should not be done in front of the deity. If you have to do it, better do it outside the temple room, outside the or distance away from the deity. 16th and 17th are clubbed together here. Nigraha anugrahau. Nigraha anugrahau. What is means is disciplining or forgiving someone in front of the deity. So deity is actually the ultimate forgiver and the punisher. Uh, if we are doing some kind of a disciplining in front of the deity or forgiving someone in front of the deity, that is not a good behavior in front of the deity. That is a seva aparadh, because actually the ultimate forgiver and ultimate punisher is the deity himself. Item 18, Nrishu cha krura bhashanam. Nrishu, the word Nishru, actually also you will have a similar word called Nrishans. In Hindi, Nrishans means a very cruel activity. Like we say Nrishans Hatya. Nrishans Hatya means somebody has been murdered in a very cruel way. So Nrishu cha krura bhashanam. Nrishu means cruel, krura means harsh. Uttering cruel and harsh words towards other people in front of the deity. That is also a seva aparadh. Kambala avaranam. Kambala avaranam. Kambala avaranam means covering oneself with a quilt or a very thick blanket in front of the deity. Now, this is something which, uh, like in very, very cold places, we can cover ourselves with some thick clothing, that is acceptable. But in general, if we cover ourselves in a very thick quilt or in a very thick blanket in front of the deity, that is also a seva aparadh. Item number 20, paraninda, criticism of others in front of the deity. We should not criticize anyone else in front of the deity. Paraninda. Item 21, para stutihi. Similarly, we should not praise others in front of the deity. Praising others in front of the deity also is a seva aparadh. Item number 22, ashleela bhashanam. Vulgar speech in front of the deity. I should not be using vulgar speech. Item 23, adho vayu vimokshanam. Adho vayu vimokshanam means passing flatus in front of the deity. So sometimes we feel the urge of relieving ourselves or passing the wind or passing the air, but that should not be done in front of the deity. Uh, and it is also said that one should not stop these kind of urges. One should get oneself relieved out of these from these urges. We should not stop these urges. So the recommendation is that we come out of the temple room to relieve ourselves of these urge, and that's how we can manage this. So adho vayu vimokshanam, item 23 is also another seva aparadh. Shaktau gaun upcharaha. Shaktau gaun upcharaha means offering minimal paraphernalia to the deity, even though one is capable of offering more. Shaktau means capable, and gaun upcharaha. Upcharaha means the items which we offer to the deity are known as upchar, like we offer incense, agarbatti, we offer dhoop, like we offer the deepak, deep. Dhoop is agarbatti, deep is lamp. We offer flowers to the deity. So these are known as upchars. So if we are capable, but we are only, despite our capability, we are offering very gone upchar, maybe only very minimal paraphernalia. That is also a seva aparadh. So one should not act miserly to the deity. Then item 25, anivedita bhakshanam. Anivedita bhakshanam means eating unoffered food in front of the deity. So eating in front of the deity is already mentioned as an aparadh, but any food item which is unoffered, which is not offered to the deity, eating that item is also considered as a seva aparadh. So anivedita bhakshanam. Then item 26 is tat tat kalodbhavam, tat tat kalodbhavanam cha phalandinam anarpanam. Tat tat kalodbhavanam cha phalandinam anarpanam. Phaladinam. It is not phalandinam, it is phaladinam. Tattat kalodbhavanam cha phaladinam anarpanam. What it means is to not offer seasonal fruits, etc. to the deity. So, like in the mango season, in summers, there is a mango season and there are a lot of mangoes available. So, one should offer the seasonal fruits, seasonal flowers to the deity. So, if we don't offer those seasonal fruits and flower, these are actually seva aparadh. Item 27, Viniyukta Vashistasya Pradhanam Vyanjana Adike. Viniyukta Vashistasya Pradhanam Vyanjana Adike. Distributing foodstuffs to others and then offering the remaining foodstuffs to the deity. So probably we have brought some foodstuffs with us in some good quantity, and we are first of all offering it or distributing it to others before offering it to the deity. Actually, it should be other way around. We should first of all offer it to the deity and then distribute to others. So the deity should be given first preference, and if we do not do so, then it is a seva aparadh. Item 28, Prishthi Kritya Sanam. Prishthi Kritya Sanam. Prishthi Kritya Sanam means sitting with one's back towards the deity. So we should not show our back to the deity. That is called Prishthi Kritya Sanam. 29, Paresham Abhivadanam. Paresham Abhivadanam. Paresham Abhivadanam means paying obeisances to others in front of the deity. Sometimes when we are in the temple room, and many times we see some senior Vaishnav and the deities are also there in front of in front of us. So at that time, if we offer our obeisances to the other person, that is actually a seva aparadh. We should not do so. We should offer our respects in our mind, but then at a proper occasion when the personality has come out, he is not in front of the deity, then we can offer our obeisances to that person. So deity is like the king, as I was mentioning, and in the temple room, the deity should be treated like the king, and should be given the most respect, uh, and others should also uh, be behave in a similar way. Item 30, Gurau Maunam. Gurau Maunam means to remain completely silent in front of the Guru, even when Guru asks us to speak. So that is also a seva aparadh. That is also a not a good behavior. That is also an offense. Nija Stotram. Nija Stotram means praising oneself in front of the Guru. Say, I have done this, I have done that. So that is called praising oneself in front of the Guru. That is Nija Stotram. That is also a Seva Aparadh. Item number 32, Devata Nindanam. So, short while ago we discussed about uh, not to show any disrespect to other devatas like Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva. So that is certainly a limb of bhakti, but doing that in front of the deity is actually a seva aparadh to the deity. So criticizing other gods in front of the deity is also a seva aparadh. We have already discussed this as part of limb number 17. Rajanna Bhojanam. Rajanna Bhojanam means Anna means uh, the cereal or the grains. Raj means the royal. So eating food cooked at a royal palace. So here it is mentioned in Manusmriti, chapter 4, verse number 218. Rajannam Teja Adatte. Rajannam Teja Adatte means eating food cooked at royal palaces quickly diminishes one's spiritual practices. So we should avoid eating food cooked at a royal palace. Royal palace can, for our purpose, can mean uh, 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 at a house of a very affluent person or a very big personality. Specifically, if he's not a deity, then eating food cooked at a royal palace can actually has the potency to diminish our spiritual practices. This was item 33, a seva aparadh. Then 34 is Dhvantagare Hare Sparshaha. Dhvantagre Hare Sparshaha. So what does it mean is to touch the deity in a pitch dark room. Dhvanta Agre Hare Sparsha. So when there is a very pitch darkness, and if we touch someone, then the person may feel astonished. So similarly, deity is also a person. And if there is a pitch darkness and we touch the deity, then it is also considered as a seva aparadh. Although deity is not, deity is actually the absolute truth, the supreme personality of Godhead. He cannot feel material fear or material astonishment, but we should be actually mindful of our behavior and should not extend this kind of a behavior to the deity when there is a pitch darkness in the room. So this is item number 24, Seva Aparadh. Item 35 is Vidhim Vina Hari Up Sarpanam. What it means is approaching Hari without following proper etiquette. So proper etiquette of approaching Hari is that we should not wear our shoes, we should wash our hands, we should enter into the temple with clean uh, with after taking a bath, after not waking up directly from the sleep like that. So approaching Hari without following proper etiquette. So that is Vidhim Vina Hari Up Sarpanam. That is a Seva Aparadh. Vadyam Vina Tad Dwarod Ghatanam. Vadyam Vina Tad Dwarod Ghatanam. What it means is Vadyam. Vadyam means a musical instrument. Vina means without. Tad Dwaro. Dwaro means the gates. So Udghatanam means opening of the gates. Opening the temple gates without playing a musical instrument. So deity is like a king, and whenever the gates of the king are opened, whenever the king gives appearance, makes an appearance, it is always accompanied with playing of musical instruments. So similarly, whenever we are opening the gates of the deity room uh, or entering the temple, so we should make some noise. Make some noise. For example, maybe we can ring a bell, or maybe we can knock on the door, like we are entering into a place of somebody who is a very exalted personality. So we enter into a room of our supervisor or maybe a very big personality after maybe knocking and maybe asking or making a small noise. That's how we enter. Similarly, when we are entering the temple room, then we should make a small noise by playing some bell. Sometimes if you see the altars are there, in the altars whenever there are gates, already there are bells hung on the gate. So whenever you are opening the door, already there is a sound of a bell that is there. So a bell is rung before entering the deity room, and sometimes these bells are attached to the temple door. Kukkura drishta bhakshya sangraha. Kukkura drishta bhakshya sangraha. What it means? Accumulating food that has been glanced over by a dog. Now you might have heard about that if you are following this Vaishnava tradition, generally the Vaishnavas don't uh, have pets in their houses, and this is the reason, because in the Vedic tradition it is a very common understanding, very popular understanding, that if a food has been glanced over, has been touched, or has been licked by a dog, then it becomes impure. Now, if you have a pet like a dog in your house and it is roaming all day around in your house, then certainly the sight of the dog will fall on the food items that you are going to prepare. And if you are going to prepare these food items which has been glanced by the dog and you are offering it to the deity, that is actually a seva aparadh. So kukkura drishta bhakshya sangraha is a seva aparadh. Item 38 is archane mauna bhangaha, breaking one's silence during deity worship. So if we are doing deity worship, in front of us there is uh, a archa murti of the Lord, and we are engaged in deity worship, and somebody is coming to us and breaking our silence. So that deity worship has to be done silently. We should not speak. We should fully concentrate on the worship. We should not speak. And if somebody comes and break our silence, that is a seva aparadh. Neither we should break our silence, nor we should break someone uh, else's silence when he or she is performing deity worship. Item 39, puja kale with utsargaya sarpanam. To suddenly leave the deity room at the time, or to suddenly leave the deity at the time of worship for answering the call of nature. So we should plan our worship, our puja in such a way that we finish that puja in one go. We should not leave in between. That is not considered very mannerly, a proper etiquette, and that is also a seva aparadh. Either we should answer the call of nature before the worship, or we should answer the call of nature after the worship. In between, we should not suddenly leave the deity at the time of worship. Item 40 is gandha malyadikam adatva dhupanam. So to offer incense without offering fragrances and garlands. So there is a proper sequence uh, that one should first of all offer the fragrance and garlands, and then we should offer incense to the deity. So gandha malyadikam adatva dhupanam. Item 41 is anarha pushpena pujanam. Anarha pushpena pujanam, which means to perform deity worship by using unofferable flowers. Unofferable flowers could be some flowers are poisonous in nature, and sometimes people offer flowers which are made up of paper or artificial like plastic, etc. So these kind of flowers should not be offered to the deities. The deity should always be offered proper flowers, uh, uh, and like real flowers. Those are should be which should be offered to the deities. Item 42 is akritva danta kashtam. Deity worship without brushing one's teeth. We should not do our deity worship by properly cleaning our teeth in the morning. Nidhuvanam kritva, to engage the deity worship immediately after engaging in sexual activity. That is also a seva aparadh. Sprishtva rajasvalam, sprishtva rajasvalam. Rajasvalam means a lady who is in her menses, uh, during the menstrual cycle. If the lady is in her menses, then we should not perform the deity worship after touching a lady who is in her menses. And if we are touching that lady, then we should take a bath, uh, and before touching the deity we should clean ourselves. Then item 45 is deepam, to perform deity worship after touching a lamp. Why it is so? After touching a lamp means sometimes when the lamp is burning, then there is a black color smoke that comes out from the lamp. And if we touch the lamp, then it is possible that our hands can get dirty with that black soot. And then we should not perform deity worship. Actually, we should clean first of all our hand, wash our hand before touching the deity. Item 46 is mritakam, to perform deity worship after touching a dead body. A person may have died due to a contagious disease or different kind of possibilities like endemic, pandemic, etc. So it is a very common understanding that once if somebody has touched the dead body, then he should not be allowed to worship the deity. Raktam Neelam Adhautam Cha Parakyam Malinam Patam Paridhaya. Paridhaya means clothes. So to perform deity worship while wearing a deep red or a deep blue or unwashed cloth an unclean cloth in general. So this is also considered to be a seva aparadh. Say unclean cloth, cloth worn by someone else, or it is not washed out properly. And deep red. Deep red clothes are generally worn by Buddhists. So we should not wear a deep red cloth. Similarly, a deep blue, like royal blue, that kind of a color should not be worn before the deity while performing deity worship. Then mritam drishtva. Mritam drishtva means to perform deity worship after seeing a dead body. That is also not advisable. That is also a seva aparadh. Vimichya pana marutam. Marutam. Vimichya pana marutam. So to perform deity worship after passing flatus. So we should not perform that deity worship. We should be very, very careful about our food habits, digestive habits, so that we don't eat foods which are uh, uh, developing a lot of winds, air, etc. Krodham kritva, to perform deity worship after exhibiting anger. Like we just now also read that in one's heart, if there are emotions like lamentation and anger, then the love for the Lord does not arise. So it is all about maintaining the right consciousness for worshipping the deity. And having this emotion like anger, if we have been angry to someone, then immediately after getting angry on someone, we should not perform deity worship. So that is also a seva aparadh. Shamashanam cha gatva, to perform deity worship after visiting a crematorium. So that is considered to be an impure place. And after coming from a crematorium, shamshan, we should take a bath, and then only we are eligible to perform deity worship. And sometimes when there is a death in the family of uh, a person, where there is a death in a family, then the family members also don't worship the deity, because in that period people are actually very sorrowful, and the deity should not be worshipped or should not be approached when the consciousness is not uh, pleasing, when the consciousness is not in a happy mood. So we should not be approaching the deity in that kind of in that state of mind. So that is why after visiting a crematorium or when there is a death in the family, deity worship is not done. Bhuktapi Ajirna Yuka, to perform deity worship while experiencing symptoms of indigestion after eating. So that is also a seva aparadh. Then bhakshyatva kroda mamsam. Kroda mamsam means to perform deity worship after consuming boar meat. Now all these guidelines are coming from Varha Puran, and in Varha Puran there are some guidelines given for those people also who probably would be consuming meat. Although this activity of consuming meat is not applicable to Vaishnavas, but some of these people uh, might be performing the worship of other deities and might be eating meat also. So this particular injunction actually has been mentioned for also applied to worship of other deities. Uh, uh, these rules are given in Varha Puran, which also apply to worship of other deities. So sometimes worshippers of other deities do consume meat. So that is why it has been mentioned here. But it does not apply to Vaishnavas who never eat meat. Item 54, Bhuktva Kusumbham, to perform deity worship after consuming opium. So also does not apply to Vaishnavas. Vaishnavas keep away from all these items like opium or any kind of intoxication. Then Pinyakam. Pinyakam means to perform deity worship after consuming oil cakes. Now oil cakes are something are made from when we have extracted oil from the seed. So whatever remains after extracting oil, sometimes those items are consumed as oil cakes. So one should not worship the deity after consuming oil cakes. Jal Padakam. Jal Padakam means to perform deity worship after consuming goose meat or swan meat. So similar as we discussed for the previous item, this does not apply to Vaishnavas, but uh, uh, this applies to the worshippers of uh, other deities, and sometimes these worshippers do consume meat, and uh, they should follow this injunction. They should not consume goose meat or swan meat. 57 is Kusumbha Shakam. Kusumba Shakam means to perform worship after consuming water spinach. So water spinach is one kind of a shak, a green leafy vegetable, uh, and it is different from the regular spinach, etc. So those people who know about this Kusumba Shakam, known as water spinach, they should stay away from eating these water spinach if they are performing deity worship. Tailabhyangam vidhaya. Tailabhyangam means applying oil on the body. So we should not perform deity worship after application of oil on the body. That is a seva aparadh. Bhagvat Shastranandarena tat pratipati pratipattihi. Bhagvat Shastra Anadarena. Anadarena means disrespecting. So Bhagvat Shastra. So we should not disrespect devotional literature while serving the Lord. So that is also a seva aparadh. So once again, dear devotees, we have been emphasizing on this point again and again. Any disrespect to Shastra should never be tolerated. And one who disrespects Shastra can never become a successful worshipper of the deity. One who disrespects Shastra can never become a successful worshipper of the deity. So again, that point has been emphasized here, item 59. Item 60, Anya Shastra Pravartanam, to start propagating a non-devotional literature. For example, literature of Buddhist or atheist. So if we are propagating about these kind of non-devotional literature, that is a seva aparadh to the deity. Item 61, Tad agratas tambula charvanam, to eat betel nut in front of the deity. Betel nut means supari, and eating supari is considered to be a sign of affluence. So we should not show our affluence in front of the deity. Actually, we should not eat anything in front of the deity, but in particular, eating betel nut in front of the deity is a seva aparadh. Eranda patrastha pushpair archanam. Eranda is actually a specific type of leaves known as castor leaves. So to perform deity worship using flowers kept on castor leaves. So there are leaves, specific types of leaves. I will show you the picture. And if you are offering flowers while these flowers are kept on these leaves, that is actually a seva prad, because castor leaves are sharp leaves and the Lord does not like flowers offered on a castor leaf. And to show you the picture of a castor leaf, here you can see this is a castor leaf. In Hindi we also call this kind of leaf as arand, or this plant as arand, arandi, or erand. In Sanskrit also you can see it has been mentioned as erand. Erand patrastha pushpair archanam. So that is a seva prad. Asur kale pujanam. So to perform deity worship during times where the influence of demons is greater. For example, if we are worshipping the deity 12 in the midnight, and that is asur kal. So we should not do the deity worship at those periods, in those times. Then pithe pithe bhumao pithe bhumao vopavishya pujanam. Pithe bhumo vopavishya pujanam. To perform deity worship while being seated on a platform or on the floor. Now this is also very important. Deity worship is generally performed while standing. We should not perform deity worship while sitting on a platform or while sitting on a floor. It should always be performed while standing. And if you go to the ISKCON temples, you would always see the pujaris, when they perform deity worship, they are standing. They are not sitting on the floor. Item 65. Snapana kale vamahastena tad sparshah. Vamahastena means left hand. And if we are bathing the deity, so we should not touch the deity with our left hand. So the way we should do it is we should hold the bathing utensil in our left hand and we should bathe the deity with our right hands. Like that we should perform the bathing of the deity. Paryushitair yachitair va pushpair archanam. Now paryushitair means the flowers which are stale. And then yachitair means flower that have been obtained by begging. So if we are offering flowers which are stale or which have been obtained by begging, we should not perform deity worship using those kind of flowers. Ideally, uh, uh, when we are offering flowers, we should be offering fresh flowers to the deity, and the fresh flowers to the deity are ideally we should grow flowers in our garden. I think I have not edited this item 63 and 64, so probably that is a mistake I have made here. Sorry about it. We have already repeated that. So 64, 65. Okay, here. Okay, maybe this is the proper slide. I should actually delete this slide and put this slide. Yeah. So 66 we have covered. 67. Pujayam Nishthivanam. Pujyam Nishthivanam means to spit during deity worship. That is should not be done. Tasyam Swa Garva Pratipadanam. To exhibit one's pride while performing deity worship. To show others that how nice a deity worshipper I am. So that is also a seva prad. Item 69. Tiryak Pundra Dhriti. To apply tilak in a crooked manner. Crooked manner means there is a proper way to apply tilak. And if we apply tilak in a different manner, sometimes, for example, applying tilak in a horizontal lines, which is more considered to be like a shavite tilak, so that tilak should not be applied. That is also a seva prad. Aprakshalita padatve pi tan mandire praveshah. To enter the temple without washing one's feet. Usually outside every temple, there is a facility to wash one's feet and hands, and one should make use of this facility and should enter the temple after washing our feet. A Vaishnava Pakva Nivedanam, to offer deity some food cooked by a non-Vaishnav. So we should not offer such food which have been cooked by a non-devotee, a non-Vaishnav. A Vaishnava Drishtau Pujanam, so to perform deity worship while a non-Vaishnav is looking at the worship. So if there is a person in your house who is a non-Vaishnav uh, and he is looking at the deity while you are performing the worship of the deity, so we should not uh, uh, allow this kind of a situation to happen, because a Vaishnava, a non-Vaishnav's viewpoint or a non-Vaishnava's emotion towards the deity may be offensive. So in that situation, we should not offer our worship. So this kind of a situation is not possible in big temples, but for our houses, for our personal deity worship, this can be avoided. We go to the 73rd item. Vignesham apujayitva, to worship the deity without first worshipping Vignesha. Vignesh means Lord Ganesh. So Lord Ganesh actually is also known as Vishwaksena in the spiritual world. So we can offer our respects to Lord Vishwaksena before we start our worshipping of the deity. So because the Lord Ganesha or Vishwaksena is known as Vignesh, they remove all the uh, difficulties in our deity worship. Then Kapali Naam Drishtva, to worship the deity after seeing a Kapali. So there are certain ascetics who wear skull, the garland of skull. So if we are uh, seeing a Kapali, then we should not offer worship to the deity. Then Nakhambasa Snapanam, to bathe the deity with water that has been touched by one's nails. Ideally, one's nails should be trimmed very short after bathing the deity, for bathing the deity. So we should not touch our nails with the water that is used for bathing the deity. Gharamambu liptatve api pujanam, to perform deity worship while being drenched in sweat. That is also a seva prad. Then last two items in the list of seva prad is nirmalaya langanam, to step over a garland offered to the Lord. Bhagvat chapat tadaya, Bhagvat chapat adayaha. Chapat means swearing, shapat, to take oath or to swear in the name of the deity, etc. So here Jiv Goswami is saying that there are many more items, but he has stopped here at item number 78 in the list of seva aparadh. Now here we should also understand that taking care of all these aparadhs sometimes may not be possible, and sometimes unknowingly or unwillingly, probably these aparadhs, these offenses might be done by us. But in that regard, we should read or we should remember this quote from Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, which is coming from Madhurya Kadambani. This is from another literature. But what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying here is, for the intelligent souls, their seva aparadhs are removed daily by their chanting of Harinam and various devotional hymns, as well as by their constant engagement in deity worship. In their case, even the seed of seva aparadh does not arise. However, if one becomes negligent and makes the mistake of thinking that one's seva aparadhs will be driven away by these processes and thus willingly commits seva aparadh, then it leads to the seventh Nam Aparadh of committing sins on the strength of Harinam. We will study this seventh Nam Aparadh in a short while. But what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, that any kind of seva aparadh while doing deity worship can be nullified if we are maintaining this mood of chanting the name of Hari constantly, or even after doing our deity worship we are chanting the name of the Lord Hari, then all the seva aparadhs are nullified. So that has been mentioned by Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. And even in Srimad Bhagavatam, we see a very nice verse which tells us the same thing, which says that chanting of Lord's holy names makes everything perfect. And what does it say? There may be discrepancies in pronouncing the mantras and observing the regulative principles. And moreover, there may be discrepancies in regard to time, place, person, and paraphernalia. But when your Lordship's holy name is chanted, everything becomes faultless. So, we should remember this, but we should not take advantage of this particular uh, verses, and uh, we should still try to do our seva in the best possible manner while continue to chant the holy name of the Lord, at least in our mind, or even if not in our mind, afterwards we should sincerely chant the holy name of our Lord, and that should make everything perfect. However, we should not develop the mentality of committing offenses as a habitual, as a habit, uh, just thinking that, oh, I have that facility of chanting the holy name, so I'm okay if this offense have been committed by me. So that is not proper. Now I will quickly cover the 10 Nam Apparaths. I know this is already a little late, but this should not take much time, should be over in 1 or 2 minutes. Now, the first Nam Aparadh is Satam Ninda, that criticizing the saintly soul. So, blaspheming the Lord devotees is a Nam Aparadh. Then, Shri Vishnu Sakashat Shivasya Namade Swatantrya Mananam. To consider the names, etc., of Lord Shiva to be independent of Lord Vishnu. So, that is also a Nam Aparadh. Gurur Avagya, to disrespect the Guru or disobey the Guru's order is a Nam Aparadh. Shruti Tad Anugatas Shastra Nindanam, criticizing the Vedas and the scriptures that follow in the footsteps of the Vedas. So if we criticize these scriptures, that is a Nam Aparadh. Harinam Mahimni Arthavad Matram Idam Iti Mananam. Yeah? So to think that the glories of holy name are mere poetic eulogies. So we are making glorification of the holy name and thinking that this is simply poetic. This has no meaning. This has no actually weight associated with them. So that is also a Nam Aparadh. Tatra Prakar Antarena Artha Kalpanam, to give an out of context interpretation of Harinam. Out of context interpretation of Harinam means given our own interpretation by our own whims and fancies, modifying it, distorting it, uh, and so on. So we should understand the understanding of holy name by our acharyas. And acharyas have also given interpretation of the holy names, but those are consistent with the glorification of the Lord. So those kind of interpretations are okay, but if we give them out of context, that is a Nam Aparadh. Nama Balena Pape Pravrittihi, tendency to commit forbidden acts on the strength of Harinam. So what it means is that we continue to do our sin, we continue to do the sins, this sinful activity knowingly, purposely, and thinking that no, I will chant the Harinam, I will chant the holy name later, and that will uh, get me rid of these sins on the strength of holy name. That is a Nam Aparadh. Then eighth one is Anya Shubha Kriyabhir Nam Samya Mananam. To think that Harinam, chanting of Harinam is equivalent to other pious Vedic acts. Other pious Vedic acts means like doing some charity, doing some austerity, doing some yajna, and considering Harinam or chanting of Harinam equivalent to these pious acts is a Nam Aparadh. Ashraddha Dhanadau Nam Upadeshaha, to instruct a faithless person, an atheist, in Harinam. So that is in the beginning, when people are attracted to devotional service, they may not have developed that kind of confidence, that kind of respect towards Harinam. And if we give instruction to these kind of people, these kind of faithless people, atheistic people in Harinam, and making them clarify about Harinam, that is also a Nam Aparadh. Nam Mahatmye Shrute Pi Apritihi, to not show attachment for Harinam even on hearing its glories. So we show our attachment by chanting Harinam regularly. Regularly, we chant a prescribed number of rounds, 16 rounds, 8 rounds, 10 rounds. Like ultimately, we need to progress to 16 rounds. So we show our attachment by chanting this Harinam regularly. Now, coming to the last slide. So, what is the gravity of Nam Aparadh? This is coming from the reference in Padma Puran, which says, one who commits all kinds of offense is freed from them by taking shelter of Lord Hari. So if somebody commits an offense, a sin, he can get freed from that sin by taking of shelter of Lord Hari. Such person is actually a two-legged animal because he's committing a sin. He's already of an animalistic mentality. But still he can get freed by taking shelter of Lord Hari. However, one who commits offense against Lord Hari is freed from those offenses by taking shelter of his holy name. So if somebody has committed an offense towards Lord Hari, he can still get some respite, some shelter if he takes shelter of the holy name of the Lord. However, although the name is friend of all, Suhrad, but by committing an offense against the name itself, a person falls to the lower region. So that is the gravity of Nam Aparadh. So making offenses towards Nam Aparadh is very, very grave. So we should try to avoid these offenses as much as possible and take the chanting of holy name as seriously as possible. That is all for today, dear devotees. It was a little longer class, but I think we covered all this list uh, at least to some degree of satisfaction. I hope this might have given you a lot of information on how to perform devotional service practically. In case you have any questions, maybe we can spend 5 minutes to take your questions. But before that, all glories to Nectar of Devotion, all glories to Bhaktir Samrat Sindhu, all glories to Srila Rup Goswami, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Dandavat.
Yes.
It's
Yes, Prabhu.
really summarizing from my exposure to deity worship and all these things from childhood till now. It's really summarized so minutely that I enjoyed every everything of what you said. Always I enjoy because your teachings are all perfect. And only I had a little doubt right in the beginning of the class. When you started this, 88 things and the rules. You said the Tulsi Puja is done only after closing the doors for the deity. And then we take Prakarma. Prakarma is, of course, the rule of the Tulsi Puja. But why to close the door of the main deity?
So we are separating the worship of Tulsi Puja. We are not doing it in front of the Supreme Lord. That's the way. That's the reason we are closing the doors.
Anything wrong in doing that?
See, you can see. So that might be an offense towards the Tulsi Devi itself. Say, Tulsi Devi is the devotee of Lord Krishna, and if we are so the servants or the devotees don't like their glorification in front of their master. So that is how it works. So the Lord will be pleased. Lord will be pleased that my devotee is being glorified. But the devotee will not be pleased that I am being glorified, although my Lord is standing in front of.
Front of excellent, because it was absolutely not known to me. So it stuck. And during the end of this, you said about Shiva and Vishnu, that we should not separate them or we should not talk in front of them.
No, what I mentioned was Naam Apparaths. So one thing was that we should not disrespect Lord Shiva, Lord Brahma, because thinking that we are devotees of Lord Krishna. Similarly, we should not think that Lord Shiva's name is independent of Lord Vishnu's name. That is a
Ji,
Naam
ji.
Aparadh.
So they
Naam
are
Aparadh.
synonym.
No, they are not
Basically.
synonym. Lord Shiva
Ji.
is considered as a devata, as a demigod, and Lord Krishna is considered as a
Is the
supreme
complete
personality
God.
of Godhead. Yeah. So
Supreme
Lord
God.
Shiva is not independent of Lord Krishna.
Ji, ji, ji. So it can be part of it, but Krishna is not part of Lord Shiva.
Krishna is independent. Krishna is Swarat. He is Purna Swatantra.
Ji,
Yeah.
ji. All glories to my Guru, clarifying to all these things. Dandavat.
Thank you,
very
Prabhuji.
much.
Also, I see a question from Nandakishore Prabhu. Nandakishore Prabhu is asking, how about who worship to Lord Ram, but not Sri Krishna's supremacy? Do they consider as devotees? So Lord Ram and Lord Krishna is one and the same thing. So they say Lord Ram is the expansion of Lord Krishna. So when we say Lord Krishna, it actually means Lord Krishna's expansion. Also Lord Ram, Lord Narsingh Dev, Maman Dev, and so on. So they are to be considered same as Lord Krishna. Yeah. Okay. Yes, Anupama Mataji, you are asking something? Okay, maybe someone else.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी।
Yes, Rakesh Prabhu.
प्रभु जी ये सेवा अपराध में पॉइंट नंबर 4 था, थोड़ा इसे इलेबोरेट कर दीजिए। आफ्टर ईटिंग, स्लीपिंग एंड आफ्टर आंसरिंग कॉल्स ऑफ नेचर।
Point number 4 in Seva Aparadh.
जी।
Let me go there. Point number 4. So, okay. Worshipping the deity without washing hands and feet or in an impure bodily condition. So we don't go in front of the deity for worshipping. For example, we have just woken up from our sleep. So that is considered unclean. We should take bath and then we should go in front of the deity. Or if we have eaten our food and then without washing our hands, without washing our mouth, we go in front of the deity for worship, that is also a aparadh. Then after answering calls of nature, so when we go, we answer the calls of nature, at least we should wash our hands, we should wash our face, have some gargling, wash our feet, and then go to the deity. That is what it is. Going in front of the deity for worship in impure bodily condition, that is a seva aparadh.
मेंशन है ईटिंग स्लीपिंग के बाद नहीं जाना चाहिए, तो इसका इवनिंग में नहीं जाना चाहिए?
नहीं, आप मुंह धो के जाइए, फ्रेश होके जाइए, हाथ धो के जाइए, कुल्ला करके जाइए।
अच्छा,
अपने ऊपर
ईटिंग के बाद भी
अपने ऊपर जल का थोड़ा छींटा देकर जाइए, थोड़ा अपने आप को, बिकॉज व्हेन वी आर स्लीपिंग वी आर इन द मोड ऑफ इग्नोरेंस, तमोगुण. So we should come out of that tamogun by washing our face, by becoming alert, cleaning our hands in a proper consciousness. That's how we should go. Yeah.
But 6 number also that
एक प्रभु जी विदाउट ब्रशिंग का था, विदाउट ब्रशिंग क्या चैंटिंग के लिए भी अवॉइड करना चाहिए?
चैंटिंग के लिए कोई नियम नहीं है. चैंटिंग के लिए you can even chant without brushing the teeth. But as I was mentioning, and I have shared a seminar, 3 living name seminar. So without brushing actually gives a dirty feeling to ourselves. And in that situation, when our consciousness is not feeling very nice, we are trying to chant the holy name. So the effect of holy name is not there. We are making a attempt. So we should ideally we should chant early in the morning. Best is we take bath. Even after taking bath, if you can do deity worship, make a very nice atmosphere in our house, play some kirtan, listen to some Krishna Katha, maybe 5 minutes to prepare our consciousness to come to that mood. And then when we chant in the proper way with attention, that certainly we are showing seriousness and we are actually taking the best advantage of that activity. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes, Manish Prabhu, you were asking. Sorry, Prabhu. Just let me receive one question from Manish ji, then we come to you. Manish Prabhu.
Point number 6 is that it is a seva aparadh to do circumambulation in front of worshipable duty. Is it something?
Deity, हाँ.
लेकिन हम लोग तो प्रदक्षिणा मतलब we take a typical प्रदक्षिणा for the deity, correct? एक बार उनको
नहीं, deity का प्रदक्षिणा कर सकते हैं, लेकिन deity के सामने किसी और का प्रदक्षिणा नहीं करते हैं.
Okay.
we don't take the pradakshina of someone else in front of the deity. So that's what we were discussing with Kartarji, that if there is a Tulsi puja that we are doing in the temple room, then we close the doors of the deity and then we do the Tulsi puja, and in Tulsi puja we do the pradakshina of Tulsi Devi.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you.
Yes, Kartarji, you were asking something.
Ji Guruji, Nandwar. Oh, is there any leniency if person is unwell or not physically capable that day or sick
Yeah.
or something?
So the best possible way of remembering the Lord for such a person is to remember the Lord by chanting the holy names.
Ji Guruji.
So that is the most
Thank you.
accessible form of the Lord to any one of us. And for chanting the holy name, there is no rules and regulation. You can even chant the holy name of the Lord in the toilet,
Ji Guruji.
but don't take your bead bag in the toilet.
Ji. Yeah,
Don't wear
that's
Harinam
written
Chadar in the toilet.
in.
Don't wear
Yeah.
Harinam Chadar in the toilet. Don't take your bead bag in the toilet. But simply you can chant the names of the Lord Hari even in the toilet.
Ji, it's written in Gurbani also, Guru Granth Sahib, by Guru Nanak also.
Ji.
Specified saying, any place you want to take my name, you can take.
Yes, Prabhu.
Yeah, Guru.
Okay.
Thank
Okay.
you,
So
Guruji. Done.
we are getting late. So if there are any more questions, maybe one last question and then we close.
प्रभुजी घर में अगर मंदिर में अर्चा विग्रह नहीं, in that
Sorry?
case, अर्चा विग्रह अगर घर में नहीं है, मंदिर घर के मंदिर में तस्वीर रखी हुई है भगवान की,
हाँ, पिक्चर लगा लीजिए. अर्चा विग्रह नहीं है तो पिक्चर के साथ भी आप वही वैसे ही आप
उसको वैसे ही ट्रीट कर सकते हैं.
वैसे ही ट्रीट कर सकते हैं. वैसे ही ट्रीट
ये,
कर सकते हैं. पिक्चर
ठीक है प्रभु.
पिक्चर हो, डीटी अगर नहीं है तो पिक्चर भी इज एज गुड एज डीटी. या
थैंक यू प्रभु
जी. Okay then, thank you very much. I hope that was useful, practical list. So my apologies for becoming late a little bit on this, but I think we covered this list satisfactorily. You are aware of all the items. Now we will continue with the item number 20 onwards from our next class. Thank you very much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु.
Krishna Prabhu.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you.
Hare Krishna. Sita ji.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, the continuity was excellent because if we would have broken into two classes, things would have been different.
Yeah. So this topic is one class topic. Yeah. Okay.
Yes, it is really. Thank you, Guru.
Thank you, ji. Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.